The recording. Okay, the recording started, and just a little overview for those of you that haven't been on this before. This is who we are. I cover Illinois and Iowa. We got Todd up in Wisconsin. Kim does all of our inside sales, and then we got our tech staff there. And again, those are our emails at the bottom to contact us. So sales@shoprank.com for any add-ons, upgrades, new seats, things like that, and tech@shoprank.com for any support-related issues. And that way it goes to the teams of us. So if one person's not available, someone will be able to pick up the slack and help you out as fast as we can. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to cover the simulator a bit, and Josh will be doing the technical portion of this webinar. And we're going to go over kind of just some general functions of it. How do you set it up to use it properly inside a Mastercam so it loads up? Some kind of general tips and tricks and settings in there that can hopefully make it a bit more useful for you. And then we'll get into a little bit on the standalone tool manager and how it interfaces with Mastercam. And since this tool manager is for the mill tool libraries, it'll be more of a mill focus. The other top requested webinar item was a lathe webinar, so we're going to probably in the next one do lathe operations and a bit on the lathe tooling as well. But then at the end we'll go over some questions and things like that. So I am going to pause my screen here and pass it over to Josh, so we'll be with you in just a second.
All right, hello everyone. I'm going to go over some of the verify options with the simulator, and we're going to go over some of the stock model options and the fixture to show you how to utilize it. First thing here, we've had the model that we used last week, but now I have a stock model set up, just a basic bar stock that we have here. For the backplot options and the verify options, it's this icon right here. You have multiple different ways you can set up stock. You can use the stock setup, which is underneath the property tabs. Boxy created a cylinder. If you actually have a solid model that you pulled in from a SolidWorks file, inventor file, or a casting that you may use, you have a file that you can use, which is like an STL from a verify or an outside source. But in this case, and we're actually going to use the stock model here as initial stock, which is this one right here. To set up for your fixtures, we actually have a level right here. All your fixtures have to be on one level. So for everything to show up and verify, you have to have all your icons, all your items inside of there. Doesn't matter how many solid models it is, it just has to be on all one level. Once you have that set up, I'm going to go ahead and click OK here. I'm going to go ahead and start up the verify. And I have to actually select some operations for verify. Now once it loads, you can see here we have our fixture set up in here, and we also have the stock model here as that pink color that normally comes up. Now down below, you can see that we have the enhancing model and enhancing view. A lot of you guys have a little questions on this. What it is, it's doing the active, accurate view that you guys may remember from the past live. It's a great feature, but if you have a very large detailed part or your computer just may not be up to specs, I can slow you down just a little bit. So I'm going to show you how to turn off that option there so you can run it almost like the old one. Go up to File, then Options. Inside of here it's this option right here, Disable the Adaptive Quality. So we won't have those two bars anymore, and it won't slow you down loading if you're having that issue. The other ones that you want to be concerned with is right here. Now we turn the fixture on, but without checking against the fixture, the tool will cut right through it. So if we want to use it as a collision check to verify to see if we're going to hit our holder, we need to turn that on as well.
That turns it on by default, right? You can switch it in the interface, right?
You can hide it in the interface. We also have the fixture option up here. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. It's going to force a restart on it to save the settings. Yes. So now, Matt was talking about, we actually have a fixture icon right here. You can turn it on to hide it, to cause it to be translucent. If you have your stop collisions on to check against it, it will still hit it, even though it's invisible if you have it off. The color loop up here is one of the options a lot of guys like to see. It is so you can see which way it's changing. So when you're actually cutting the part, see via tool change or via an operation, so you can see how it's being manipulated. I'm going to go ahead and run through the part. Just a second here to good up.
Yeah, as it's running through, this one thing I want to say. So when Josh is in that settings menu, you can basically default on the collision checking, but if you see in this top left corner there, you have stop conditions and collision checking. You can turn that off and on the fly. Just the other way is, a lot of people don't know about that settings in the options page, where you can basically turn that always on by default, so every time you go into the verify, you don't have to keep making sure that you have collision checking turned on.
All right. With the part run through, I'm actually going to go through the Verify tab up here. Up in the Verify tab, one of the most common ones that we like to use, it's very useful, is the Compare feature. You can actually compare against a STL model or a solid model, and it has to be an STL or solid. You can turn it on and off right over here to show the model, to see what you're comparing against. And you also set a tolerance to check it against, which is the options model right here. Now we're in metric, so you don't want to go any tighter than about 2 thou on the tolerance due to graphics, or in this case, since we're in metric, it's going to be about 0.05 on the metric. Click OK on the tolerance, and I'm going to refresh it. Now you can see on the tolerance here that green is good. We're plus or minus the 50 thou on the millimeters. Green right here, and we intentionally blew through a surface right here so you can kind of see what it looks like. We have red right here on the bottom, and then we have obviously stock left on the walls all the way around, plus our flooring. The accurate zoom up here, if you actually zoom in, you get these braided edges. This is what the adaptive quality do right up on the front, but with it turned off to help speed up the computer, we'll have to use the actual accurate zoom option. So we go ahead and click on that. Just going to refresh the screen. And you can see it kind of cleaned up the edges so we can see better lines. And the more you zoom in, the more accurate it's going to get, up to a point. You can't really zoom in complete up on it on graphics. The one thing that the adaptive quality does, that if you actually zoom out here, we can actually see it actually cut a portion of our model. With the adaptive, it'll do that automatically. You don't have to go in and out. For this one, bring back our full model, we have to go to the reset zoom. We'll go ahead, reset zoom, and bring our model back. Does anyone have any questions on the base for the compare right now? On that. Yes, Mark. I'm manipulating the part with my mouse, just using the metal mouse button, just like you would inside a Mastercam. Just using the zoom wheel, the middle mouse button to zoom in and out, and just holding it to spin it around.
One thing to cover there, Josh, click on the blue tab. If you're using a space mouse or something like that, if you want to set the point of rotation, that's what that motion controller button does. Otherwise, it's always going to default to the center of the model. But if you're working with large parts or you got a bunch of fixtures or something like that, you can click that motion controller button. Then wherever you click on the screen is where the point of rotation will be with the space mouse.
Yeah, I'm gonna pump up the lid one real quick. All right. I'm just going to pull up a lathe operation here and put it in verify, just to show some of the other views we can do. With lathe parts, we always have usually like an ID bore or something like that. It always goes on. Inside the view tab, we can actually manipulate the part, see different views. If I go to 4 view, we can actually get 4 individual views if you need to see how it runs. You also have 2 columns. We also have the single view. In verify tab, we also have what's clipping planes. This 3/4 icon here allows you to view the part with one of the quadrants missing. So if I go ahead and select on the first quadrant, I can see the first quadrant cut through. And the same is going to go for the second, third, and fourth. You turn it off with this option right here. Then you also have the clipping planes, which is a dynamic clipping plane. So if I'm doing X, Y clipping plane, I'll actually be clipping on the Z motion. So X and Y, and I got a plane on Z. And this big, large white pane that pops up, you can see I got a 4-way cursor mark on it. If I actually left-click on holding that, I can actually drag it back and forth to pull it in and out. Same thing, Y, Z is the same, except it's now on the X clipping plane. So whatever axis is missing is the axis that you're going to be clipping on. Go ahead and click that off. Another one that kind of makes your part a little easier to see is actually up here called the Show Edges. Click on Show Edges. Second to load. You can see I get hard lines, like almost if you're doing the Show Edges or outline shaded in a solid model inside of Mastercam. The turbo mode is something that you want to keep defaulted on. It helps speed up the verify process. And then you also have the True Thread. True Thread is useful if you need to see the very start and end of the thread, but it's going to cause a lot of extra processing power, and depending if your part's very large, it'll slow down the PC. But it will actually give you the pitch on the thread. Any questions on the clipping planes or any of the edge modes?
Well, I think about the only other thing is going to the settings page again.
Mm-hmm.
And the 3 versus 5 axis engine.
Okay, so inside the options on the settings page, under general, you have a couple different simulation engines you can do. You can do the 3 and 5 axis, and you can always have it set to default to 5 axis. You want to use the 5 axis engine here. With that, you'll get true motions as close as you can get with your NCI code, and it'll simulate the best motion possible, whether it's you're doing just 3+2 or you're just indexing the part when you know you're going to be flipping it over manually. It'll properly output the information so you can see a better results. All right, that should be it, I believe.
But yeah, I think that's all we had on the simulator. So if there aren't any, I don't see any questions in there now, we're going to jump into, because we're about 2/3 of the way through our time slot here. So we are going to jump into the tool manager, unless anyone has any questions. Nope, you can go ahead.
All right, everyone, this is the tool manager as if it would be opened up the first time you use it or anytime you first initially open it up. It's going to give you options here on how to create the tools, any wizards that you need if you need help. For right now, I'm actually going to close out the start page. You have two different ways too, by the way, to open up documents. I have recent documents right here, but I'm going to go through the other way, which is files and then recent documents, just in case you don't have your start page up. I'm going to use the mill-inch library just because it's the base default library. It's going to give it a second to load here. With it first loaded up, you're going to see how many tool assemblies you have, how many holders are in the library, and what cutting tools you have. To start creating assemblies, we need to open up the tabs and get access to them. So I'm going to go on cutting tools and just double click on it. It's going to pop up tools. I'm going to double click on holders. We get a holders tab and then tool assemblies. I have no tool assemblies in here. This is if we want to use tools that are already created. If you need to do brand new ones, it's up here. So new milling, new hole making, new holders. These are stuff that's not in your library. Now, we need to change the view around so I can kind of see things a little bit easier. So I'm going to go into view here, and we can either do a tile horizontal or tile vertical. We can also left click and drag on these options, and you get the little icon here like you would inside a Mastercam. So we can get different segments. We can also, inside of here, drag around just like you would inside a Mastercam and view the pictures. And if you don't have them all fully opened, you can bounce back and forth between the tools and the holders or however you want it set up. To create a new assembly, we have to get a new assembly option in here. To do that, we can just go to Home, and we're going to click on Assembly. Now down here we got a new assembly. It's blank, and we also have an assembly tree that popped up right down here. To create assembly, it's just simple drag and click. We can either start with the tools or holders. Does not matter which one you do first. I'm personally going to start with the holders. I'm just going to grab one of the holders here, and I'm just going to left click hold, and then you can drag down here in the lower left hand side. You can see I get a little plus icon, and it's going to drop it right down in this assembly window for me. I'm going to go ahead and go to tools. I'm just going to grab this countersink right here. Again, I can just left click and hold. And now I got a tool in here. I'm going to go ahead and just pull this up just a little bit so we can see the tool. So this is essentially what your assembly would be. Now a couple different ways of modifying this. We can go down here and double click on the assembly, the countersink right here, and we can get all our information right here. And we also have the same thing for the holder right here on the right hand side. And then if we click on the assembly, it would be the assembly information, the description of it, what it's called. You can also dynamically change the stick out or projection on the tool. To do that, you would just hold over the holder, wait for it to glow. You're going to hold the control button. You're going to get an up and down arrow. Now you can left click and hold, and you can literally drag it in and out. Now it'll only allow you to drag it as far as the tool projection grab. You cannot grab up on the shank too far near the cutting edge, and you can't pull back any further than the length of the tool. Once we have on there, I can see over here on the right hand side my tool projection was right there, or I can manually change it myself to something that would be what I would actually have on the machine. With that done, we can go back inside the assembly right here, and I can double click on the countersink right on the top. With that, when you click on the countersink on top or on the holders, you get what the tool definition is what you see inside a Mastercam, and you can manually change everything right here as well. Same thing goes with the holders. We go back to the holders and just double click on one of the holders. We can get one of the holders set up like we would inside a Mastercam. Go ahead and finish out with that. Any questions on the tool so far? So to hide the view windows if you don't need them, we have those little drop-down menus right here. You go that, it'll drop it all the way down so you can just get the list that you need. And same with down here. And you can also drag them and move them any which way you need. So if we want to go back to assemblies, go back up here, we can pull them out. We can also live drag them if you have multiple displays. Other than that, there's...
I would show the sorting, so pull up your tools again. Cutting tools. Now if you take like diameter and drag it up.
Oh, so sorting here, what Matt's talking about, if you take one of these icons right here, any which one, if we go to diameter, we pull it up to the top, right here where it says drag head and color here. Once you have there, then you can sort by diameter. So if I go back in and I said hit the 2, I can go now and sort by the 2-inch. And the same thing works for the holders. Right. So we can pull multiple ones up, and we can keep going and stack it up, so it's an advanced sorting option if you have a large tool library.
So a couple benefits of editing the tools this way are a few things. So first of all, this tool manager does not require a Mastercam license. So you could install this on your home computer, you can have it on your regular work computer, but not be tying up a Mastercam license. It also propagates settings across the tools from anywhere they are in your library. So say he edits that countersink with specific speeds and feeds. If he uses that with any other holder or in any other tool assembly, it's going to maintain that information across the library. So I always tell customers if they are spending the time to create a tool library, which I always recommend, because once you have that set up, you know, going from version to version or job to job, it really reduces the amount of programming time, because you can really get your speeds and feeds and everything set the way you want, you know, set it up by machine or by material or whatever works best for your business. And you can also have multiple instances of the tool manager open. So say you have a tool library for stainless, then you have a tool library for aluminum. You can have those open in different sessions, but say you have holders that are used on both types, you can drag the holder from one instance to another and start building assemblies from using that same data you've already put in, so you're not duplicating any of those settings. And wherever you click in there, like Josh was showing on that Properties tab on the right-hand side of the screen there, those are all the exact same settings as if you were editing the tool right inside a Mastercam. So if you do open up that tool assembly and edit it inside a Mastercam, it'll save that data back the next time you open it up in the tool manager as well. So it's kind of an unused tool, I think, from a lot of our customers, but I think knowing a couple of these tricks, like making sure you click on that assembly button in the top left so you can start building an assembly, is a hurdle that a lot of people, when they first open it up, they have no idea how to start creating something, and that's really the only thing you have to make sure you do, and that you pull up the holders and cutting tools from within the library. And let's see, there are some questions.
No, this is not the tool manager from 2017. This is the X9 tool manager. This came out actually in X7. Let's see what else we have.
When a Mastercam and you change the diameter, how do you keep the speeds and feeds from changing? I think that's a setting, isn't it?
Yes, so the speeds and feeds option that you're looking for is settings, configuration, and tool paths, and then it's lock feed rates. So Matt, you wanna hide your screen so you can see what's going on. That's Craig. It's the lock feed rates right here. You want to have that on to make sure.
And that, if you've been using Mastercam for a while, that setting was on by default in previous versions, but for some reason corporate decided to leave that off by default in X8 and X9. So you just got to go into your config and make sure that's turned on.
Mark, just give us a call at the office. We'll link in and we'll take care of you.
Can you show creating a new tool geometry?
Robert, if you're trying to create new tool geometry, same thing. We'll walk you through because there's a couple stipulations to creating new geometry to make sure that it has to be correct first. Just shoot us an email, or if you have a tool that you're looking to create, a DXF file of it or DWG, and we'll be able to assist you that way.
Yeah, and we've been meaning to make a YouTube video of this, so if you can send us some geometry, we'll actually record it as a quick, 4 or 5 minute YouTube video, and we'll post it on our channel for everybody else. It'll be right next to where the webinar will show up. And uploading tools from a spreadsheet. I believe you can, right?
The spreadsheet, Darren, is going to have a couple stipulations as well. Are you trying to load a spreadsheet, a tool spreadsheet from an older version of Mastercam? Because it has to be laid out in particular columns and rows for us to pull in the information.
Yeah, so what I find works best is if you can export the tool library as an Excel file. I don't know where that is, though.
Oh, no, just Tool Manager. Throw up a couple tools. Right-click. Export tools.
Okay, so you're do that on your screen.
So the tool library here, let me actually pull up the middle one real quick. So ToolPass, Tool Manager, have a couple tools in here, import, export tools, and then convert a library to text, and then you also have from text. You want to match the text right here. And I'm just going to open, save text. You need it to have a similar layout to what's in here. Without that, it can miss information, so you want to make sure it matches what you get from here. If you're getting a spreadsheet from a Microsoft Word doc or something like that, you might want to give us a call and we can help you out with it as well. I can't see if there could be any more questions, man. Let's see here.
Just mark.
Geometry, got that one. Feeds and feeds. I think that's pretty much it. Check. Everybody got their questions answered. Okay. Is there any other questions pending? Maybe a setting on your side, the diameter shouldn't change the feeds and speeds with it locked, but you may have some options that override it.
Yeah, I just changed mine, and
It'll change your surface feed per minute because the diameter changed, but it should not change your feeds and speed if you have it locked on. But there's some other defaults that you can have on that will alter that. We just need to take a look at your computer and see what options you have on. Both the questions.
can I get a LOC on my setup sheet? Is that length of cut?
Yeah, length of cut. Setup sheets, give us a call, Chris. That's a something we'll go over when we give you a call on the phone.
Yeah, because we have a table. There's actually a training document that we have on our website for customizing the setup sheets, and it basically has all the variables that are possible for us to pull. So we'd have to go in there and check and see if length of cut is an available option to pull. And if not, we can always do it as an enhancement request with corporate. And I do have the webinar set up. They have a new tool in here called Survey. When you close out of the webinar, it will give you the option to take the survey. You also don't have to do it right away. In the follow-up email that it sends you, I think an hour after the webinar, the survey will be in there. But for anyone that does fill out the survey, we're going to do a drawing for a free Mastercam University, any one of the 7 or 8 classes they have on there. So we'd appreciate to take the 2 or 3 minutes to fill out that survey just so we can make these better in the future and just all get better as a Mastercam provider to all of you guys. But it's about 11:40 and I don't see any more questions in here. And anyone with the ones we had longer, we'll get in touch with you guys today, like Mark and Chris, and looks like Chris Toby also wanted to see how to do a port tool. So we could probably have just a good tech call with you this afternoon. Sheldon, where the survey will be, it'll be one of 2 places, I believe, but I also don't trust GoToWebinar 100% because my polls haven't worked for the last 2. I actually have to call them, their tech support, and figure out what's going on. But it should pop up with the survey right when you try to leave the webinar, but also if you don't have time right now, you'll get an email about an hour after the webinar that'll also have a link to that survey. And if for some reason it doesn't, I'll have to talk to them some more. But thanks to everyone that attended again, and we appreciate you coming out. We're tentatively going to be doing a lathe-focused webinar in April. So if you guys have any specific things you want to see, feel free to send us an email to either tech or sales@shoprank.com, and we'll make sure to get it on the list of things to cover. And if you have any other ideas, that was going to be one of my poll questions. Any other ideas for webinars, feel free to send them to us. Some of the ones I have from people already, people want to see a Mastercam for SolidWorks webinar. We're going to be doing a 2017 preview now that the public beta is out, as there's a couple things we'd like to cover to help you guys get started if you want to try the beta. We're also going to hopefully do a multi-axis webinar, and then the last one I got from our most recent email blast was covering some of those Verisurf tools that I was talking about, because we have a handful of customers now using that software and some of their newer software like the Automate product, and it's been really beneficial for their inspection department. So with that being said, I think I'm going to end the webinar. Looks like a lot of you are leaving already. So we do have one more question on what our YouTube username is. If you go to our website, shoprank.com, towards the bottom of the page, there will be a link to both our Twitter and our YouTube, but it's just youtube.com/ShopWare Inc. with the INC at the end, and that'll take you right to our page. But thanks again, everybody, for attending, and we'll see you next month.